All right, good morning, everybody. I was looking at the volume here on the different contracts, and I think we are going to roll over. The newer contract, at least on the pre-market, has more volume. So the Z contract is the December contract, and the U contract is the old one. It looks like the Z contract is getting some more volume. So let me double check on the daily candle. Let's see here. So right now Z has about 71,000. So does U. Yeah, they're about the same on the daily. But on the smaller, like the 30-minute candles have more volume on the new contract. So it really wouldn't matter which one you use today. It doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. But we will use the Z contract here. All right, let's go ahead and fix our levels. Unfortunately, when we roll over, all of our levels are messed up. Grab some extension targets for us today. All right, that should be good. We go ahead and grab our trade plan here. This is from last night when we were using the old contract, so we're obviously going to have to change these levels quite a bit. That's really annoying doing this on TradingView when it hasn't rolled over to the continuous contract. Pain in the ass. All right, let's see here. So we will say holding above. Today's value high, which is currently 67. We are going to look for that first extension into, let's just say 90. And then the next one is 67.20. And then holding below, let's say 66.51. We're going to look for 42 and 11. And today is still holding the P shape imbalance as well. So as long as that value high, as long as the value high is being protected, then you're looking for those extensions to the upside. All right, let's say holding above 417. we're going to look for 500 and 600. Holding below, let's say 394. We are going to look for 284. That's the value low of Friday. And then value low of Thursday is 24,194. Basically just looking for value retraces to the downside or extension targets to the upside. Alright, there is the trade plan. Today we're going to be doing Momo Monday, so I'm not going to have my Addis charts on this screen. We're going to be focusing on the indicators for anybody that has any questions about the indicators. I go ahead and update these charts a little bit. Go ahead and throw our VWAPs on here. Alright, everything should be good. We are in a very strong trend on the 5-minute. We had a bottom pivot on basically the overnight low. And then since that blue pivot, we've just been trending up in a very strong, just diagonal here. 30-minute one time framing, breaking the highs of every candle. You have a little bit of a lack in momentum on the 30-minute, but it's because it's in that like diagonal fashion where it's not very aggressive. It's just very consistent. After this first 5-minute candle, I'll double check the volume. It's too late. We already rolled over, but we'll double check. If it's really bad, we'll go back, but we'll see. The pre-market volume was better on the new contract, so we'll see if the opening volume is the same. Not a whole lot going on until Wednesday. This week we have obviously the Fed meeting Wednesday. We finally have those rate cuts coming up. But until then, not a whole lot happening. A little bit of data on Tuesday. Thursday we have a little bit of data, but realistically the entire week is just going to be around the FOMC. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Leo, Backpack, and Adriana, Jose, Morris, Fernando. Here's the trade plan for you guys. Good morning, Ram, Tamer, Alex, LDT, Marcel, Estevan, Larry, Andreas, Prophet. Good morning, Scott, Lulu, Banana, Michael, Greg, Clive, Keegan. Good morning, Roger, JC, 2013, Nerd, eBay, Christopher. Good morning, Angelo. Igor, Nitro, Tarnation, Suzanne, Peter. Yeah, we're on the new contract, Angelo, the Z contract. So we went ahead and rolled over to the December contract. I will double check the volume here in a couple minutes, but it was a lot higher when I checked on the trade plan. Good morning, Viking, Michael, Lucio, Liquidated, Albert. Appreciate you guys being here. All right, a little bit of a top pivot on the 1 minute at 612. No pivot on the 5. You do have that fish hook pattern on the 5 minute where you have that pop up and then it kind of curls down the trend line here, the white line. And then once that white line flattens out at 15, that means that trend is very stable, as we can see here. Very stable trend. We have a 30-minute pinch on the NASDAQ. Not ES. ES, not so much a pinch. Okay, let me make sure these are all using the right contract. I don't think they are. The indicators won't matter, but for the price's sake, we want them on the right contract. Okay, that should be good. That pivot was 670 actually with the new contract. You are a bit extended here. It's hard to see on stream, but I have my bands on here. So we have an upper band on the NASDAQ 30 at around 438, so we're slightly outside of that. What about ES? This is the problem with using TradingView around the open. It's so slow sometimes. I couldn't care less, Tarnation, to be honest, man. I don't care what people think about stuff like that. People love pushing their perma biases on the market, and most of the time they are wrong. TradingView, holy. There we go. All right. TradingView is slow today. You are a little extended on the 30-minute. All right, let's double check the 5-minute candle. Let me see. So Z contract opening candle 21,000. Let me check the old contract. Old contract 11,000. So yeah, you definitely want to roll over. The Z contract has double the volume. So make sure you guys are trading the Z contract. And you'll know you're trading the Z contract if your price is the same as mine. Should be 6669. Banana, if you're trading futures and you don't know the contracts, I would not trade futures right now, man. I would study a bit more before you start trading. You guys, everyone in here, that goes for everybody in here. If you guys do not know what the hell I'm talking about with contracts, you should not be trading futures. You guys need to do a bit more research before you jump into futures. But long story short is futures have different contracts. So they have like quarterly contracts. Sometimes they've got monthly contracts. So the monthly contract, or sorry, the quarterly contract on ES and NASDAQ is expiring on Friday, which is the U contract. So when you trade ES, it's ESU 2025 to be exact, because that means you are trading the September 2025 contract. And now we are rolling over to the December contract because the September contract is expiring. Yeah, you guys need to understand that. You guys need to understand like tick values and margin and all that other shit behind the scenes that we don't really talk about. I don't really teach that stuff on streams, on these streams. I just kind of want you guys to know that. That's stuff that you guys should know when you're joining the market, right? Okay, I normally draw my boxes on Addis, but we're not showing Addis today, so let's go ahead and draw our 1 minute zones here. Just looking for any obvious reversal points, which they're pretty easily marked out with our pivots here. That one's kind of been used up, but we'll keep an eye on it anyway. And that's honestly pretty much it. We haven't had a lot of reversals today because it's just trending in one direction. That is pretty much it. Your most recent reversal point is pretty much right here. And that is pretty much it. Yeah, you normally don't have to redraw everything if TradingView rolls over. I don't know why they roll over so late. It's kind of annoying. They should just roll over on Monday every single time. But if TradingView rolls over at the proper time, you don't really have to redraw everything. Oh, I gotta redraw my VWAPs because I drew my VWAPs on the wrong chart. All right. You want a Robert Bacon, Darius, Future, TK, Orion? You want a John, Sean, Mauricio? Is there an easy way to set an alert on a pivot crossing? The crossing, I think you can. You can set pivots on, or sorry, you can set alerts on the actual pivots. The crossing, let me see. I think you can. Yeah, you can. I just don't have these named. So it is the, which one is it? Let me see. The first plot is for the orange pivot. The second plot is the blue pivot. The third plot is the OTS trail. So if you wanted to cross the orange pivot, it's the first one. The blue pivot's the second one. And the OTS trail is the third one. So you could do price, crossing, and then you could set whichever one you want. And then you're good to go. That should work. That's something with the indicator I never went back and fixed because now it's so outdated that if I change the code, it wants me to like upgrade the code entirely. Okay, we had a really big block trade come in at 70, 670. We'll see if that gets protected here. It was a bullish block, but we're trading below it. Exactly where the pivot is, 670. You are still extended outside that band. It's probably hard to see on stream, but this like dashed line here, you're extended outside of that. So a little bit extended on the upside. Holding on to that daily VWAP on NASDAQ here. So right now we're just constantly extending the upper band. Or sorry, not the upper band, the upper value, value high. You're pushing it up. Keep an eye on that extension target around 500. On NASDAQ, on ES, that would be around 680, 690. You did have a small bear div on that high, which is played out. You did hit the OTS trail, which is always the target. Now you're trying to see if that bear div will turn into an actual trend shift, which we're not really seeing. The 5 minutes being protected. 1 minute NASDAQ bouncing off the trail and VWAP. Basically, right now, you're kind of in a vertical distribution. It's kind of a strong uptrend. It keeps going back and forth. Gets a little choppy, gets pretty aggressive. But you are a little extended, so it keeps coming back. But you can see the 30-minute here, just a very strong diagonal move. Very sloppy price action. Good morning, James, Trent. Top Step doesn't allow you to change the contract. That's unfortunate. You should be okay trading with the old contract, but you definitely prefer to trade with the contract that's getting more volume, right? Good morning, Mauricio, DMG, Trevor. Okay, buyers seem to be protecting that block trade. They had another block trade, same exact level at 670. So this is an FOMC week, and it's an FOMC that we are going to be getting rate cuts. So we would expect, especially because it's September as well, that we will be pulling back towards that weekly open on Monday and Tuesday, right? So this push up is kind of a bit scary. You could argue that they're trying to price in the rate cut before the actual meeting on Wednesday, but yeah, a little scary running on Monday and Tuesday. Here's that extension target on NASDAQ to the upside. We're a bit of a ways away on the ES extension. Need about 10 to 15 more points. They've been pricing in the rate cut for 2 months. Yeah, you're not lying. Good morning, Tim. Good morning, Faraj. Yeah, not really getting any short signals today. It's just a very strong trend. You have a couple of moves down that they're being caused by like bear divs or pivots, but they're being instantly bought. Like you had a move right here. That was a pretty good bear div move, instantly bought. This 30-minute, when you see a 30-minute like this, and it's just one time framing aggressively in this like diagonal fashion, very hard to short this. Because you got to think about every time you get into a short, most of the time, those traders, they're not scalping, right? They're looking for a pretty decent pullback. So for that decent pullback, you would need to break these 30-minute lows, right? And every single time, it has failed to break those 30-minute lows. So every single time someone shorted one of these candles thinking they were going to get a big pullback that was going to break the prior low, they lost that trade. So it is very hard to look at something like that and say, okay, I'm going to short this and I'm going to target VWAP or like the overnight low or whatever. You would need it to break all of these 30-minute lows. Good luck with that. And then on the other side of the coin, if you're betting on a small breakout of the 30-minute high, that has been happening every single candle. So the probability of that happening is pretty high. Morning, AT. Good morning, Bella. Not building much of a node. Yeah, there's a small node at 75, and that is about it. The main thing to watch is, like I was saying, the 30-minute structure. We want to keep an eye on these 30-minute lows. You're almost one time framing on the 5-minute, but not quite. What about the 15? Yeah, nearly on the 15. It's kind of hard to see, but the lows are barely being protected. Yeah, it's like a vertical distribution, right? We talked about it a lot last week. We had a couple of days that we had those vertical distributions where you have that kind of diagonal uptrend that just keeps pulling back. You got to be careful on the sells, right? The sells look very enticing. They give you a big opportunity. But a lot of the times they just fail because you're breaking the high of day consistently, right? You also have to be careful on the breakouts as well. Like the breakouts, they're not offering too much. Like if you look at the 30-minute candles, you're not breaking these 30-minute highs by too much. Like it takes 2 to 3 candles to actually see a pretty big break. You are getting more aggressive. Recently, you have been breaking those highs by more. But on a vertical distribution, you can have a lot of those weak highs where you break out for a few points and then you come back down. So you want to be a pullback buyer for the most part. Maybe the 80 EMA if you're very aggressive. Maybe the 24 EMA if you want to be a bit more passive. Right now, since about the open, you're not really allowing the 24 EMA or the trails to be retested. So it is pretty aggressive. I think you've had one Yeah, you've had one retest. Swap Mondays tend to be up most of the time. Is that the stat? I haven't seen those stats. If this continues without a pullback, we are getting a little bit aggressive here. Can you guys see these bands on stream, or are they too hard to see on... I know sometimes, like, the dashed lines are really hard to see on stream. But the upper band here is like 73. We're currently trading at 76, so getting a little extended. I don't want to make the bands too visible because these charts are pretty ugly already, to be honest. We just don't really have we don't have good luck with these Momo Mondays. I try to do the Momo Mondays every other Monday. And it's like every time I do it, there's not a whole lot going on that I can show you. Like right now we're just in a pretty strong uptrend. There's not a whole lot to talk about here. The one thing you want to look for when you have these uptrends is the NASDAQ pattern that we had on the 30-minute here. Whenever TradingView decides it wants to load. So this pattern right here, that's called a pinch. So when you have that trend line basically pinching together, like getting to the exact level as the histogram, and you're moving in one direction, that direction is very hard to trade against, because what the indicator is telling you is the shorter momentum and the longer term momentum are agreeing entirely on what way price should be going. So you had kind of a bearish pinch, and then he started pinching back up there. So like this little reversal right here was the reversal point. The other pattern to look out for on days like this is kind of what you see on the 5-minute. We call this the fishhook pattern, where it kind of pops up, it tops out around 20, it curls, and then it flattens out. So when it flattens out at 15 or negative 15, that is telling you that trend is very stable. Typically, you're going to see one time framing in a trend like that, where you're breaking one side of the candle, you're not breaking the other side. By the way, we are getting extended on the 5-minute here, which is probably why we are getting some sell pressure. Just a little bit extended. Needs to pull back. Cool off for a second. You have a single tick failure on the 30-minute. Single tick sweep on the high. So I would prefer to obviously have this come back down. I mean, I'm a reversal trader, so I'm always biased, but because we have FOMC on Wednesday, I would like this to be towards the weekly open. So this push up here on a Monday with FOMC in 2 days, very hard to trust. I would like to see it back towards that weekly open. But I'm not just going to blindly trade that. But that would be the better trade plan for today, what I would prefer. I'm already rolled over AT. You can see my price is 72. I think the old price is, I think it's like 60 points below. Usually the rollover is about 50 to 70 points on ES. And I think that's about exactly what it is this time. That single tick failure, the sweep on the high, giving you about 5 points. We'll see if it can continue. You had those block trades come in at 70 earlier, which is basically where VWAP is. We'll see if they protect those block trades. Yeah, SK, it's like I was saying earlier, this is a vertical distribution. For the most part, you do have little zones of it being aggressive, but for the most part, it is a vertical distribution, which means that buying breakouts is just not a high probability trade. It's a very weird system because you look at the chart and you're like, okay, it's diagonally going up. You should be able to buy breakouts and easily make money, but you just can't. It's just not one of those trends. Like, the only breakout that you could have bought and instantly been up was like this breakout here. Around 948, 950. Because that one broke out aggressively, then it stayed aggressive. Every other breakout pulled back. The only system that is like high probability during a vertical distribution is the responsive averages, like the trails, the 24 EMA, buying like towards candle lows and stuff like that. Like any responsive strategy is typically pretty good during a vertical distribution, but everything else pretty much fails. Reversal trades are failing. Breakout trades are typically failing. Even like chop trades are failing, like side-to-side trades are failing. It's a very hard pattern. Very common pattern in all-time high. You have people pushing the price up, but then you have that kind of monkey mentality that people love selling all-time high. They love putting their take profits at all-time high. So as you are rising, you're hitting an all-time high every time. So you're getting a lot of sell orders, sell pressure. You guys are not missing anything on my Delta charts today. Literally the only thing that they're showing, and I'll take a screenshot, is that big block trade that we had come in earlier today. We had a big block trade there. Here's that single tick failure that we talked about. Other than that, you're basically not getting any interesting Delta. This candle's getting a little bit bottom heavy, so keep an eye on that. What the hell is going on with my chart here? That's showing on stream? No, it's not showing. Okay, here's that 30-minute extension. So we were talking about the 30-minute being extended outside the upper band, pulling back into the band now. What about the 15? 15 pivot coming in, back inside the band as well. 1 minute trail flipping red. We'll see if that stays red. That is the first trail flip for the last like hour and a half. You have not flipped the trail on NQ. By the way, that is putting in a poor high. Let me show you here. Oh, actually, it doesn't show on TradingView, but there is a poor high on Addis. And that should be a poor high. I agree with that poor high. I'm not sure why it's not showing on TradingView. It's probably because the single tick. That single tick is breaking it on TradingView. Oh, contract. You're right. It might be the contract. Yeah, good call. It was the contract. I was thinking it was this single tick on the 30-minute. There's a single tick failure there. Good call, good call. Well, there you go. There's one of the differences. If you're not using the new contract, you don't have that poor high, which wouldn't really affect your trading, but there can be differences like that. The value levels could be different. The like the POC shifts could be different. You got to be careful. Were you shorting on NASDAQ? There's not really a bounce on ES that would get you out of a short here. So if you were on ES, your stop was probably a little too tight. NASDAQ, I could say like if you shorted here, and then this bounce might have stopped you out break even, but that would have also been probably too soon. So this pivot, this 670 pivot, is exactly where that block trade is. There's a big block trade that came in at 670. And it's currently being protected, so the buyers are holding you up a little bit here. So we flipped the trail red earlier. This is the first retest. Keep an eye on that. If we stay below that trail, possibly putting in a lower high here and continuing maybe back down to VWAP. VWAP at 65 here. The yellow line is the session VWAP. What do you mean the sweep got you? You talking about like the 5-minute sweep or something? Here's that trail holding you down a little bit. Looks like it is putting in that lower high here, holding on to that trail bearishly. Let's see if it can get below that pivot, which is also where the block trade is. Keep an eye on that session VWAP, possibly a target here. You have repaired the 30-minute. 30-minute was outside that band, a little extended, hard to be a buyer up there. And now we are back inside that upper band. Back inside the fair value. Not exactly a rollover top, but it's pretty close on NASDAQ. You had like a high here, a weak high, and then a lower high. Putting in another lower high there. Like I was saying earlier, this is the preferred move. I would want this to come back towards that weekly open. That'd be nice. If it just keeps running before the FOMC, it's just setting it up for a very easy failure. Starting to lose momentum on this down move here. You can see the momentum coming up quite a bit on the 1 minute. No, they are not VWAP bands. It's the Wick sniper indicator. If you guys are familiar with my my market making bots, it's the inside band of the market making bot. So the market making bot is just an upgrade on the Wick sniper. So like this band here, this like interior band, that's the Wick sniper. And then I just created kind of like Bollinger bands around it for the Wick or for the bot. So this is, let me send you, or I'll show you a screenshot. So this block trade right here, there was a couple of big block trades that came in around 670. That's basically the bottom tick of this 30-minute candle. So this block trade is being protected pretty heavily. The buyers are trying to protect it. That's exactly where the pivot is as well. The 670 pivot. There's also a 5-minute pivot there. Is there a 15? No 15. The 15 was a little bit lower. So here's that shift in momentum. I talked about that momentum coming up quite a bit on the Momo. And now we are pushing off of that momentum. We're holding on to that VWAP. We're holding on to that bullish block trade as a buy zone. And they are trying to push off of it. You're not seeing that on NASDAQ. NASDAQ is still pretty weak. Possibly just going right back into that vertical distribution. If it tries to break out again, you are once again extended on the 30-minute band. Fair value is trading at 75. So anything above 75 is a bit unfair. Looks like the buy pressure on ES bringing NASDAQ up here. And they flip those trails back to being green. Yeah, very common for September for ES and NASDAQ to kind of do their own thing, unfortunately. September is just a choppy month, unfortunately. This is actually very exceptional that we're seeing this strong of a trend in September. This is not common. The start of September is more what September normally looks like, where we had all that chop. That was pretty much spot on. This is that scenario that we talked about in August. I was saying that if September is going to be different this time, every year there's always a narrative. Every year you're always like, okay, this might be different. And the narrative this year is the FOMC rate cuts, right? So if we are going to be trendy, it's going to be because of the rate cuts. And that seems like what's happening. They always have some kind of narrative. And most of the time it does fail. And it's choppy anyway. This is worrying me, though. Like I said, we're kind of pricing this in a little too much. Typically, Monday, Tuesday, going into FOMC is like D-shaped, right? It's bell-curved. Not very one-directional. So having this one-directional movement is kind of like, I don't know if I should trust it. But at the end of the day, like we always say, you have to trade what the market is telling you, right? What you can see. Respond to what it's telling you. Stop trying to predict everything. You don't want to build up these like massive ideas of what you think the market should do, because then you're going to try to fit all your trades into that idea. So just because I have this like bias that I wanted to go back towards the weekly open, that doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and press the sell button every single time it pushes up. That's just what I think it should be doing. I'm not going to let that take over my entire trading system. That's why when you build these trade plans like we do every single morning, we build our trade plan, you always want to have like 2 different paths, right? If it does this, okay, I'll do this. If it does this, I'll do this. And you also want to be very flexible, right? We always say, like, okay, the day shape is P-shaped. But what happens if it turns into a D shape? What happens if it turns into a capital B, right? You need to be flexible. You don't want to have this perma bias. And that's why I always shit on people in chat or like Twitter. Like people are always having these perma biases of what they think it should do. You just can't have that. Possibly putting in a stair stepping pivot here, where it puts in a pivot and it instantly breaks it, turns it into support. We'll see if that's the case here. No, there's no rollover top right now. The only rollover top we almost had was on NASDAQ, and it was kind of a weird one. You had a high there, weak high, lower high. A little bit of sell pressure there on that 30-minute open. Not a great 30-minute close. That's a pretty nasty candle, typically seen as a hanging man candle. Those can very often be top reversals. There's a lot of block trades coming in. There might be some headlines coming out. Yeah, it's Bessent. Bessent's talking right now. He said the US will not impose tariffs on Chinese goods for purchasing Russian oil unless European countries do the same. So just tariff headlines. So you got to watch out for these types of moves with the bands, because this is typically what a vertical distribution looks like. We call it riding the band, where like it's right on that band, it tries to break above it, too extended, pulls back to it. Breaks above it, pulls back to it. Breaks above it, pulls back to it. What does that look like? Looks exactly like a vertical distribution, right? Where you have these breakouts, but they're weak. They break the high, they come back. They break the high, they come back. And that's basically what you're seeing there on the band. It's all just different lenses, right? We're looking at the same picture, but we're looking through different lenses, getting that data a little bit differently. So back into a vertical distribution here. So one thing you want to look for on these vertical distributions is in the market structure, it almost always looks like that kind of diagonal movement. And you see basically, like if this is a, let's say this is like a 30-minute candle. Typically when you're in that vertical distribution, you're going to have those breaks of those highs, but you're not going to have the breaks of the lows. So you'll break the high, you'll pull back a little bit, either towards like the upper half of the candle or maybe even just the upper wick. So you'll break the high, little weak high, and then pull back and kind of sit there for a little bit, maybe retest the middle of the candle, and then just do the same thing over and over and over again. So what you're looking for that to break is either a strong break of those 30-minute lows, or you start to not break the 30-minute highs, right? You start to put in so many lower highs that you're just not breaking those 30-minute highs anymore. You're kind of starting to see that here. So like we barely broke the 30-minute high, pulled back a bit, barely broke the 30-minute high, pulled back a bit. So if we start to stop, it's kind of hard to say. If we stop breaking this 30-minute high, so on this candle or the next candle, we keep putting in lower highs, then this is over, right? The vertical chop is over. You can see it's getting very weak. This break of the high was the weakest one so far. Putting in a top pivot, pulling back immediately. Here's that zone that we had marked out. Let's go ahead and delete that. So we're paying close attention. Let's just zoom in here. We're paying close attention. Let me turn off our bar colors here. To how these 30-minute levels are reacting, right? If we can't keep breaking above this 80 here, it's turning into kind of a rollover. Okay, so we have a complete loss in short-term momentum on the 1 minute, but this can turn into a longer-term trap if they can't break that trail. So if that trail holds that dotted line there, then that short-term momentum will start to come back because those responsive buyers will bring it back, right? So right now we're basically seeing a loss in the aggressive buyer momentum, but are the responsive buyers still there? We'll see. Good morning, OM. We already almost have 100 likes on the stream. I appreciate that, guys. If you guys can get that to, let's say, 125, we'll do an Apex giveaway. We'll do an account giveaway. Appreciate you guys all hanging out. I know these streams are a little bit different. The Momo Mondays, we only do these like every other week. Which, by the way, if you guys have any questions on the indicators, now, today is the time to ask, right? If you don't know how to read the Momo or the OTS, you don't know what the signals mean or whatever, feel free to ask questions about them. It's better to do them on these streams than the normal streams. Unfortunately, we're not getting too many signals today. It's kind of just one trend. So here's something to keep an eye on. Like when the Momo does something like this, where the trend line and the histogram are kind of in the middle, and they're just like chopping up, that's just confirming that this is price action that we do not care about. You're just not really paying attention when it's doing stuff like this, for the most part, and there are exceptions to this. But for the most part, when the Momo is in this area, like the middle zone, that's kind of the do not care zone. The exceptions are if it's giving you trap signals, or if it's giving you pinches. If it's giving you like a really clear pinch signal, you want to pay attention. But other than that, it's kind of the do not care zone. We haven't had a good example of a trap signal today. You almost had one back here. Where was it? You almost had one right here, where you pulled back into the trail, and that short-term momentum was pretty weak, but then it just popped right back up off the trail. So this is a bear trap. Now, I say almost a signal because a trap signal would have been better if this actually went semi-negative and then came back up. Kind of like this right here. If it would have had that pattern right here, that would have been a trap signal. Where that long-term momentum is still pretty strong, but then you have that like miniature flip on the short term. If that lines up with the trail, it's a very good signal typically. Don't really have those today, unfortunately. Hey, Stuart, have a good day, man. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm glad you're making money today. Good morning, Ryder. OM, if you click the button next to the camera on the top right of your chart, there's like two arrows pointing together. That's your scale button. UFC 320. Yeah, I think the next couple of UFC events are really big. The UFC on Saturday wasn't that bad. It was okay. The boxing event, same thing. The boxing event was okay. Just so damn late, dude. It went till like 2:30 a.m., I think it was. And the last fight, the Canelo fight, wasn't as exciting for a 2 a.m. fight. Way too late on that event. Yeah, it was a fight night, yep. For a fight night, it wasn't bad. Still outside the upper band, so still inside of that vertical distribution. So funny enough, I was looking at NASDAQ here. I was trying to give you guys a trap signal, an idea of a trap signal. There's actually one right here on ES. So you see how it goes below the midline, then it comes right back, and it bounces right off that trail? That's that trap signal right there. Yeah, it's one of the things I just don't. I'm just not a boxing fan anymore. Boxing has lost me as a fan. It's just more of a marketing thing than like an actual fight, an actual fighting event. The influencers getting into boxing killed boxing for me, and I think it killed boxing for a lot of people. Became more of a marketing thing. Oh, what number do I use? I use just default one, just one single tick. Okay, so we're still in that vertical chop. They're still breaking the 30-minute highs, but they are still outside of that fair value. So, as I said earlier, still don't really want to be a breakout trader. It is a little extended. You did get a block trade at 680, 700 contracts. Bullish block trade. Okay, update on our targets. You're coming up on the target on ES. It's already hit the target on NASDAQ. So here's the target on NASDAQ. Shifting our POC up. Next target on NASDAQ would be around 600. So you have some room to climb here. Remember, we're all-time high, so these targets are kind of made up. Where it's just like zones. They're just areas that we're keeping an eye on it. We're using like Fibonacci levels. We're using tail extensions. At the end of the day, they're kind of made up levels, right? They're just areas that we think it's going to stop. Or not stop. Stop's not a good word. Just areas that we want to take profit. Good morning, Lee. Good morning, C-Mac. So that fish hook pattern on the 5-minute where we have that kind of like curl and then it flattens out, it is still going. Has not budged a single bit. Very stable trend since about 7:30. Beautiful bottom pivots too on the 5-minute. You had a couple of pivots on the overnight low. You had like 4 pivots lining up here. It's actually not the overnight low, but one of the lows, I believe. Where's the actual overnight low? I think down here is the overnight low. So pretty close. Yeah, these pivots around 645. You always want to watch for stuff like this where you have a pivot, you flip the trail, so you put in some higher lows, you flip the trail, and then you just never flip it, right? You're just green the entire way. So you can just watch that trail for a trend flip here. Putting in a bear div up here. Keep an eye on this pivot. Pivot at 678. We'll see if it flips. But yeah, very obvious bear div on the 1 minute on ES. You don't really see it on NASDAQ. Not exactly a bear div on NASDAQ. What do the shadings mean? So the shadings are when it's red. So if it's shaded on the top, if it's shaded red. If it's shaded red, we call that finding a top. So it's kind of like an uptrend. It's like looking for a top. It's looking for higher value. And then when it's shaded gold, it is telling you that there is a high probability that that is approaching, it's approaching the top. Basically, it's finding that higher value. It's kind of found it. It needs to cool off a little bit. So possibly pulling back, going sideways, maybe completely reversing. Think about it as like RSI overbought, oversold. So it can continue to uptrend and be overbought, quote unquote overbought, for a very long time. Same thing with RSI or any momentum oscillator, right? But in like a ranging market, it will typically give you top and bottom signals. Like the gold shading will be very close to a top. The purple shading, like over here, will be very close to a bottom. So if it's shaded green, it's finding a bottom, looking for lower value. And if it's shaded purple, same thing as the gold, just on the buy side. So higher probability of a bottom coming in. Either need to go sideways, need to cool off a little bit, or you need to reverse. Why it's actually happening is because the trend line and the histogram both are either below -10 or above +10. If it's just the trend line, just the line, the longer term momentum, it will only shade it red or green. But if it's the short term and the long term, it will shade it purple or gold. Now, when it does this like flattening pattern like this, that's when you have moves like this. So the gold shading or the purple shading, they're not going to give you high probabilities of like a strong top. It's just like a extended. It's a little extended, needs to cool off a little bit. You're looking more for like pullbacks into the trail, pullbacks into the 24, that sort of thing. Trap signals, so kind of like right here. We have a trap signal right here where it goes down to the 0, then it pops right back up. And that would be a trap for the sellers, obviously. The sellers are being trapped. Still trading outside that fair value. Fair value is 78. Still just continuing that vertical distribution. It is slightly aggressive. You are staying above the ADMA a lot more. The teal line is the ADMA. You can see we're getting a bit more aggressive here. I need about 10 more likes and we'll do an Apex giveaway at the end of the stream. Give away a code for a free account. You guys can pick whatever size you want. Don't let today and possibly tomorrow fool you. If we have low volatility, we should have pretty high volatility on Wednesday with that FOMC. The shading is a good example on the 1 minute here. You can see that even though we're uptrending, like very obviously we are uptrending. Nobody would doubt that, right? But if we look at the gold shadings, it kind of tells you that being a buyer up here is a bit dangerous. You can see a pullback there. Same thing, gold shading here, pullback there. So now we have a gold shading here. So it's not telling you like it's going to completely reverse. It's just telling you it's kind of a bad spot to be a buyer if you're looking for like a high probability trade. It's a little dangerous, possibly a little extended. Maybe wait for it to cool off a little bit. What do you mean Ninja Trader expires? What do you mean? I don't... Doesn't Apex give you like a free license or something? Doesn't it not expire? I'll try one short. Yeah, like I said, on vertical distributions, it's okay to try a few shorts here and there. You just don't want to be shorting like all day, losing every single trade. But if like everything is lining up, you have a sweep, you have absorption, rollover top, like whatever, and it just looks like a really good short, they're not bad patterns to short every now and then. They have those really big sell-offs back to VWAP, possibly back to low a day, right? You got a free license, but it did expire. They do expire. Gotcha. I don't remember reading that anywhere. I don't use NT anymore, so. And I have a lifetime license with NT, so. No, OM, I would never recommend that to anybody. You guys should never be taking out loans or like taking capital from people to trade with. That is a recipe for a massive disaster. At that point, you're literally better off just trading a prop firm. That's quite why prop firms exist. Little nasty spike on the high there. Spiked up and then instantly wicked it. Possibly putting in a 30-minute pivot, but it's a brand new candle, so it's hard to say. But yeah, if you're taking out a loan to trade, you've quite literally, like, instantly, you're lost. You're setting yourself up for failure pretty much immediately. You're in the wrong mindset right out of the gate. If you're talking about prop firms, that's not the exact question that you were asking. Like, taking capital from somebody, like a loan or something, is not a prop firm. Prop firms nowadays are basically using simulators as if they were real accounts. And then even if you go into a real account, you're not exactly taking a loan. Because if you take a loan, you have to pay it back. You are at a downside risk of that entire loan. It's basically as if you had like a 50K account, you are at a downside risk of that 50K. That's not how prop firms work. If I have an Apex account of a 50K account, my downside risk is basically nothing. My downside risk is the money that I've earned in that account. So even if I hit their drawdown of $2,500, I'm not losing $2,500. And even in a paid account, I'm not losing $2,500. The only money I would lose is the money that I earned, that I put into it. Or not even put into it, just earned, actually. You're not putting any money into it. Yeah, prop firm accounts, funded accounts, they are not, they're not technically providing you any capital. Not in the sense that people are thinking, like taking out loans and stuff like that. Good morning, Dark. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with like putting prop accounts on like credit cards and stuff like that, but you don't want to be like just blowing your money away, right? You need to set aside like how much money that you want to put into these accounts. Basically think about it as like your how much money you would put into a real account, right? Like if I was going to put $5,000 into a real account, it's going to be very hard to lose $5,000 on prop accounts, right? Or much harder than losing it on a real account. That's going to be a lot of accounts. At the end of the day, just don't treat trading like gambling, right? You need to be smart with your money. You need to understand the downside risk. That's why I constantly preach to you guys that you have to have accountability. If you don't have accountability in trading, you are just going to completely obliterate your accounts, your money, right? If you're just constantly blaming other people or like the market is manipulated, like you have all these excuses and whatnot, the more you blame other people, the more you're going to spiral and just lose more money because you're not going to blame yourself and you're just going to keep throwing money at it. You have to have accountability and understand what you're doing. Turning into a little bit of a rollover here. I wouldn't quite call it a rollover top exactly as the setup, but you are definitely rolling over in momentum. Our momentum is getting pretty weak here. We really need to start seeing the momentum come down on the 5 minute if you want to see that come back. Because you keep losing it on the 1 minute, but it doesn't matter because our 5 minute is so damn stable. It's been so stable since like 4 a.m. But yeah, end of the day, you just have to have accountability in your trading. If you're somebody who blames everybody else for all of your mistakes and you blame the market and you always have an excuse for every time you lose, you're just never going to make it. It doesn't matter if the market is manipulated, if it's not manipulated. That's the game we play, right? You can't use that as an excuse. Yeah, but at the end of the day, Gunk, like, see, even stories like that, or if you blew like $10,000 on a credit card for prop accounts, if you were in that mindset where you just didn't have that discipline to not do that, think about how much money you would have lost on a real account. Like if you're already in that spiraling mindset where you just can't stop yourself from buying like 20 accounts and just constantly losing them and resetting them over and over again, you would be the type of person where you're like opening an account, maybe like $3,000 down to zero. All right, let's re-up the account. Another 3,000 down to zero. Another 3,000 down to zero. Let's go bigger this time. Let's make it all back. $10,000 down to zero. Right. It's a dangerous game, man. Losing that 1 minute trail here. Keep an eye on VWAP. VWAP coming up at 74. That's why I constantly try to explain to you guys all the realities of trading. It is a very dangerous game. You need to be a disciplined person to be in this game. Okay, we did hit the like goal, so we'll do an Apex giveaway at the end of the stream, probably in like 30 minutes or so. Good morning, Sil. There's that 1 minute trail flip. Let's see if it can stay red. Keep it on the 5 minute. The 5 minute trend is the most stable. The 5 minute trend is the one that kind of needs to come to an end. If you want this to be a flip, a reversal, you need that 5 minute market structure to be broken. And that structure is pretty obvious right now. Higher high, higher low, higher high, just repeatedly. Keep an eye on these 30-minute lows as well. We have not lost a 30-minute low so far today. Still putting in a top pivot here. We have 20 minutes left to confirm it. But that pivot is going to come in around 680, so it's already down a few points. That pivot is kind of already confirmed on the 1 minute, but that was an older pivot. Is there a 3 minute pivot there? Oops. No 3 minutes. So yeah, waiting on that 30. So here's a purple shading. So typically when you have purple shadings during trends like this, that is where those responsive buyers need to come in. We had one earlier, I think it was on NASDAQ right here. So like the responsive buyers needed to come in here, and they did. They did a good job bottoming it there. When you have that opposing shading going against the current trend, it needs to be quick. No order flow, not today. Today's we're doing Momo Monday today. We'll be back to our normal charts tomorrow. You're honestly, you guys are not missing anything. We kind of picked a decent day for it. You're not missing anything on the order flow chart. Let me show you what it looks like. It's pretty nasty today, actually. Just getting block trades all over the place. We're not getting any, like, defined clusters. It's a pretty nasty chart, to be honest. Basically just waiting to see if this 5-minute trend wants to come to an end. You do have a weak high. You don't really have a lower high yet. Thirty-minute lows are still being protected as well. Okay, trail has flipped red and it is pushing you down here. So the 1 minute trend is definitely coming to an end here. The market structure is shifting. Still don't really see that breaking the 5-minute market structure yet. It would have to come down quite a bit for that to be a problem. You would have to drop probably about 7 to 10 points to start threatening this 5-minute trend. Kind of more of a head and shoulders on the 1 minute than a rollover top, because rollover tops, we like them to be kind of ABC, like back to back to back, right? Where you have that boom, 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 like really, really close together. This is more of a head and shoulders because it's a much larger cluster. Same idea though, lower high, losing momentum. Trail is pushing us down here. So here is the first negative momentum on the 5 minutes since the entire uptrend. You can see the Momo has not crossed zero a single time. It almost did a couple of times. So we are getting a little weak here. Can it finally break a 30-minute low? We have not lost a low in quite a while, actually. We actually have not lost a low on the entire uptrend. So since 4 a.m., it has not lost a 30-minute low. Very diagonal move. Keep an eye on the daily VWAP coming up here at 675. Then we have that session VWAP at 670. Yeah, I've never tried that alert, Alex, so I'm not sure how it will determine if you are crossing a pivot. Because what it's going to do, what I assume it's going to do, I'll have to test this, is it's going to take the most recent pivot. So, like, if you put in an alert for an orange pivot right now, it would do this pivot here, the 71. And then if you put it in for the blue one, it's not going to do it until way back here at 45. So I'm not sure exactly how it calculates the crossing. When I do my alerts for the pivots, I just do the alert on the actual pivot. So I go to trading suite, and I do new pivot high or new pivot low. That's normally how I do it. I can test it on this orange pivot here. Let's see, which one is it? It's the first plot. But like I said, I've never really tested those alerts that way. We didn't design it for alerts that way. All right, here's VWAP. Keep an eye on that session VWAP at 70. This is our first 30-minute low since this entire trend up. And this is the problem with being a buyer when you're outside the band, all right? Being a late buyer. One-minute blue pivot, first blue pivot in a long time, actually. Yeah, very long time. First blue pivot since the overnight low. We'll see if it can hold VWAP. That's from that buy pressure coming in on VWAP here. Trying to sweep that 30-minute low as well. So here's one of our combo signals. When you have a purple shading with a pivot, that is a bottom combo, right? This makes the likelihood of that being a bounce a little bit stronger. That's our first purple shading since the overnight low as well. I think we had it flash purple right here for like one candle, then it bounced. You want a crypto? So far, holding VWAP turning into a sweep on the 30-minute. Not finding a lot of seller delta below that 30-minute low. It's a beautiful combo signal. Here's your first target on the trail. We'll see if it goes into a bigger trade. If it can break the trail here. All right, let me get the giveaway ready. We're not into the stream just yet, but just so I'm ready for it. Failing that OTS trail, so we are going into a little bit of a downtrend here on the 1 minute, putting in those consistent lower highs. This is why you always like to target the trail when you have like bull divs or bear divs, or when you have these like combos, right? The trail could stall you out. If it can break the trail, that's when it turns into a much larger trade, right? But if it fails the trail, then it was just a kind of a take profit, a relief bounce. I think there was a very small bull div there, but it's a tiny bull div here. Very hard to see. Okay, so that ended up not being a sweep. They protected it from being a sweep, just barely. All right, I'll give you guys, let's say 5 minutes from now. So go ahead and pick a number 1 through 100. This is going to be for an Apex giveaway. I'm just going to give you guys a code. You can use it on any size account you want. Pick one number, 1 through 100. Only pick one. Don't spam. If you spam, you're just going to be disqualified. I have the number picked already. So pick one number, only one message. Don't spam. If you win, if you guys tie, I'll do it again. Whoever won. If there's only one winner, I'm going to send you an email. Well, actually, first you would have to send me an email. And then I'm going to respond to you on your email with a random number, just to confirm it's you. And you're just going to post that random number in chat. Then I'm going to give you your promo code. So just have your emails ready as well, if you are the winner. But I'll give you guys like 5 more minutes, so we'll go till like, let's say 37. All right, a couple more minutes if you guys have not gotten entered in the giveaway. By the way, keep an eye on this pivot. Still getting buy pressure on the pivot and buy pressure on VWAP. If you haven't got entered, just post one number, 1 through 100. Let me double check. Has anybody gotten it yet? Let's see. All right, everybody stop posting numbers for a second, because I think we're going to have to redo it. I don't think anybody's gotten it. Let me see. Actually, there might be an easier way. I might just be able to re-roll it instead of having you guys all put a number in again. All right, 1 second. Don't post anything. Let me see. Let me just double check I didn't miss anybody. Yeah, okay, so nobody has gotten it. I'm going to do this the easier way, so don't repost a number. I'm just going to re-roll it. So let me re-roll it and then see if somebody wins. All right, I have the new number. Let me double check. Sorry, I used to have a chat bot that would make this a lot easier, but the chat bot doesn't work anymore. I think nobody won again. Okay, nobody won again. Let me roll another one. You guys suck at randomly picking numbers, man. Okay, we have a winner this time. All right, let me see if there's multiple winners. Okay, now we have multiple winners. Okay, the new number is 5. Leo and I saw another one. Who was it? Leo and JC. Leo and JC. Are you guys still here? There's Leo. Are you still here, JC? Okay, you're both still here. Okay, let's see. Here, I'm gonna put a number 1 through 10, and I'm just gonna keep rolling it until one of you guys win. So both of you guys pick a number 1 through 10. And please don't pick the same number, obviously. And I'm just gonna keep rolling it until one of you win. Okay, 2 and 3, alright. I don't think this shows anything. I'll just do it on here. All right, 1 through 10. Here we go. Oh my god, you guys are not winning. Okay, 3. There you go, JC. Very exciting stuff. All right, JC, you are the winner. Here is my email. Go ahead and send me an email, and I will send you the code. Appreciate you guys all participating. We'll do some more giveaways later this week. We're going to be doing massive giveaways in October for our next series. So make sure you guys stop back by in October. We're going to be doing like a massive laptop giveaway. We're going to be doing Discord, Addis, all kinds of stuff. If you guys didn't hear me talk about it, I think it was last week. Our next series we're going to be doing in October is going to be about kind of the path that you guys should be learning this material. I'm going to try to consolidate all of my teaching throughout the years into like a structure, if you will. And we're going to do like a 5-part series. We're going to break it down topic by topic. We're not going to go like massively in depth on every single topic. It's going to be kind of like a crash course. And then we'll add on to it. Like as our next few series, we'll add on top of it. Yeah, it's going to be like a crash course on all these different topics that I've talked about over the last like 10 years, right? Yeah, we'll start that in October. It's going to be every Wednesday we'll release a video. And then every Friday we're going to do a live stream, which is like a Q&A for that video. So if you guys have any questions on that video, we're going to do that. Hey, JC, I'm going to send you a random number on this email just to make sure it's you. I mean, our community's pretty good. We haven't had anybody try to cheat just yet, but just to be safe. Just type that random number in chat, and then I'll send you the code. Okay, so right now, guys, what we're looking at is the same thing we talked about earlier. We are trying to see if this 5-minute is going to lose market structure. And right now, we have a weakness in the market structure, but it's not quite losing it. Like we're trying to put in a lower high here, but it's not even putting in a lower low. So this market structure is definitely weakening. It's definitely shifting towards the downside. If it confirms this lower high here, it will get a lot weaker. Then if it puts in a lower low, then the trend is dead. All right. So that's what we're keeping an eye on. Awesome, JC. Okay, let me send you the code now. By the way, so this code, you can use it on any size. So whatever size you want to buy, it can go for any size. So you just put the code in, it will give you the first month for free. After that, it will renew at full price. So if you do not pass that account in that first month, you want to go back to the brew code to get the discount. All right, there you go. Code has been sent. Hey man, these extension levels, they work. That extension level we marked out for our trade plan on NASDAQ, that's the high of day, pretty much to the exact point. If it goes to our next extension, we are looking for around like 590 to 600 on NASDAQ. On ES, we're stalling a little bit early. Extension goes up to like 688, 690, somewhere around there. Looks like our 5-minute's starting to waterfall here, locking in that lower high, possibly a rollover top on the 5-minute. Our momentum has been lost. So this is what we talk about on the Momo, where when it's shading like this is what we call finding a top, right? It's looking for a top. It's looking for that higher value. Now the shading is turning off, so we can say that it has found that higher value. This higher value, this local top, is that higher value, right? So now we're losing that trend. Now, sometimes if the trend is very strong, which this might be one of those cases, we'll have to see. Sometimes it will turn off for a couple of bars and then come right back. It's kind of a trap. Let me see if I can find an example. It happens more on the daily. Let's see if there's a daily example. No, actually, there's no examples right now. But sometimes it will turn off for a couple of bars and come right back. But all right, guys, we're going to call it there. I appreciate you being here. I will be streaming back to normal tomorrow, so we'll do our order flow Addis charts tomorrow. Every other Monday, I try to do these Momo streams, or if you guys have any questions about the indicators, you can just ask me on these streams. Gives you guys some examples of what to look for on these indicators. By the way, keep it on the 1 minute, potential pinch starting on that 1 minute. 5-minute trail is being protected, so potentially one of those traps that we were talking about, this might go back into that uptrend right away. But yeah, back to normal tomorrow. Same stream as always, the Addis stream. So I'll see you guys then. There's not a whole lot to look for tomorrow. We have a little bit of data in the morning at 8:30, retail sales, and that is pretty much it. But all right, guys, I will be streaming for the rest of the day in Discord. If you guys are not in Discord, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. That's all I got. If you guys want to support the channel, you can use code BREW on Apex. I believe it's still 80% off. Addis, the promotion is over on Addis, so no more promo codes. But if you would like a 30-day free trial, a full access trial, sign up using the link down below, send me an email, and just let me know, hey, can I get that extended trial? And I'll get you guys added. But all right, guys, that's all I got. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace, everybody.